Welcome to Real Estate Momentum. It's Aaron Smith, and today we're talking about financing and what options that you can choose for yourself as a buyer or a seller. Right now, I want to have a conversation about financing in real estate. The 30,000-foot view is that there are multiple different types of loans out there, everywhere from just paying cash, which is king. There's no frills to that. You just get the money out of the bank, you go to the title company after the title search, and you close on the house. But most of the time, you're going to have some sort of financing involved. Typically, and this is the reason we're having this conversation, but typically the most likable financing is a conventional loan. That's because the bank's lending their money. They're probably going to sell it off to the secondary mortgage market, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and it only has to meet those criteria. However, there are some government loans out there like FHA, VA, USDA, and several others. There's certain things that you can get grants on and that sort of thing. But I want to talk really quick because for the last 2 years, it's 2022 now, the market just is starting to shift because mortgage interest rates have gone up. But let's talk about FHA and VA government loans for a second. So FHA is a loan product that came out back I'm not sure exactly when. It might have been part of the New Deal, where it allows housing to become more affordable for people who might need lower down payments. They have lower credit scores, things like that. So FHA guidelines state that if there's any peeling paint on the house or missing smoke detectors, handrails, safety concerns, that those items should be taken care of before closing. And a lot of times right now in today's market where the seller's getting 4, 5, 6 offers on a house, and one of them happens to be a government loan, well, the conventional loan usually has fewer hoops to jump through. Partly true, okay? So let's talk about houses with 3 or more steps need handrails. If there's no smoke detectors or if there's missing smoke detectors, you're going to have that. But the peeling paint thing is the one that's the hardest to fix. Here's a story about a house that we had. It was somebody caught wind at a local pub that one of my listings was about to hit the market. And we get presented a conventional offer with 5% down on this house that was built in the late 1800s or early 1900s. Lead-based paint wasn't out of style until 1978, and this house probably had some peeling paint in it, on it, and that sort of thing. We get a conventional offer for 5% down on this house. And then almost immediately after we went under contract, the buyer wanted to switch their financing to FHA. I thought it was a terrible idea, but we were already, knee deep in a contract in the middle of a home inspection contingency. And what ended up happening is the appraiser came through the house. They took pictures of the exterior of the house, and then up along the gables and fascia boards and some of the exterior, we believe that the paint that was on the house, buyer didn't care about it. The buyer didn't really want the paint to have to be addressed, but the lender did. So that's one example. Another example, I'm selling a house in Fort Mitchell. This was years ago. The buyer was a veteran, and he was using his VA benefits to do a VA loan with no money down. It's a great loan product. And the problem that we ran across is the garage floor had been epoxy coated, which is not lead-based paint. It is some sort of acrylic paint. You clean the garage floor, you paint the floors, you sprinkle these little flecks all over it. And then over the years, if you didn't do a great job prepping the floors, your tire tracks on the floor will wear away the paint, and the paint will wash away or blow away. So we're approaching closing on this VA loan. Buyer's happy as heck that he's getting the house, and we're approaching closing. And what ends up happening is the appraisal came back, and the underwriter wanted us to scrape and repaint the garage floors. So we had to delay closing by a few days. Seller had already moved their stuff out. It really inconvenienced the buyer because the buyer's ready to move their things in before the weekend. Well, the day before closing, they came back and they needed us to paint the garage floor again. And that's what we did. The buyer had to pay for a few days of storage, inconvenience, that sort of thing. So when given the choice, a seller is more likely going to choose definitely a cash offer because there's less hurdles to jump through to get the deal closed. Definitely a cash offer, and a conventional offer has a lot fewer restrictions and guidelines that need to be met before you can actually close the deal. And that's why usually FHA, VA, and USDA loans come last, because the government has to approve these things. And anytime the government's going to endorse something, they've got to make sure that there's safety involved. Got to make sure things I's are dotted and T's are crossed before you can close on it. So when given the choice, a seller is probably going to pick a conventional loan. But I do think that if your house is of a certain age, newer, it's already buttoned up, has all the handrails, smoke detectors, and there's no peeling paint, that FHA and VA buyers and USDA buyers should be considered, because they may be a much more qualified buyer than your standard conventional buyer. So when you're considering an offer on a house that you're selling, be open-minded. Make sure that you're asking lots of questions. Ask your agent, do you think my house would survive an FHA underwriter? Do you think there's going to be any issues with the approval on it? If you're a buyer and you're going through the pre-approval process, if your loan officer says, hey, you should do VA, you should do FHA, ask a lot of questions. Ask your loan officer, am I able to use a more competitive style of financing? Is conventional an option for me? Because if you're able to present an offer that is conventional, you might stand a better chance, because we can't always trust the listing agent to lay all the cards out on the table for their seller the way that we would want them to. So you can eliminate that hurdle by maybe trying for a more competitive style financing. I hope this information helps. Financing is the biggest and most stressful part of the home inspection, or of the home buying process. Home inspection is another thing, but the financing is the most stressful part, because you're having to peel back all the layers of the onion, provide so much stuff to your lender, and sometimes you have to duplicate that. So eliminating a little stress in the financing process is what we hope to do for our clients, and presenting offers with different financing options is something we like to do for our sellers as well.